Hey everyone, welcome to the Creek. My name is Jared Miller, and this is a banana. I have a daughter right now who's learning her alphabet, and she knows that B is for nothing other than banana, or Beth if she really wants to get under my wife's skin. A banana is a banana is a banana is a banana. For those of us who have grown up in this country or in this part of the world, a banana is the most underrated and kind of ubiquitous fruit there is. They're cheap, they're plentiful, there are entire aisles in the grocery store filled with them. And if you're fancy, you know that there's other types of banana-ish products. You can get a plantain, or you can get a little plantain, or that's about it. But until 1960, when you said the word banana, people thought about something very different. It turns out this is more specifically a Cavendish banana. And up until 1960, bananas had a thicker skin, were less resistant to bruising, and grew in heavier bunches. These bananas were referred to as the Gros Michel bananas, the Big Mike bananas. When they grow bananas, they cultivate them by breaking a piece off of one banana plant by pruning it and transplanting it into new soil. And the soil is so fertile and so full of life that a stick with a banana leaf on it can grow new fruit, can put down roots, and can thrive. But this means that every single banana is genetically identical to every other form of bananas. And so in the 1950s, when a Panama bug, a fungus, began to make its way through the crops of South and Central America, it developed a really unique taste for the Gros Michel banana plant. And entire crops were wiped out, to the point where today the Big Mike banana is almost extinct, and farmers had to recultivate the Cavendish banana. The way we understand the banana has been fundamentally changed by the reality of monoculture. Monoculture is the idea that a single thing can exist all by itself, surrounding itself only with people and things exactly like itself. Whether we're talking about political discourse, cultural dialogue, or even recreational activities, the things that we do tend to be done by people that look, think, vote, buy, live, and spend like us. Most of your friends, if you're honest, have more in common with you than you might like to admit. I know that's certainly true of me. My social environment is populated by 20 and 30 something predominantly white, predominantly middle upper class, predominantly Canadian born, predominantly progressive men and women. We surround ourselves with thought patterns. The algorithms that guide our lives direct us in practices and activities that connect us to people who look and think like us. Facebook discovered a long time ago that they could keep people scrolling if they showed them people reacting to the kind of things that we react to. People being outraged by the same kind of things that we're outraged by. And a circle and a cycle perpetuate. The problem with the monoculture is exactly what happened to the Big Mike banana, though. The problem with the monoculture is that when something bad happens, when something changes in the fabric of our social imaginary, our cultural milieu, our general world, when something happens, it affects everybody equally. And when something bad happens, that means that there's nobody there to pull you out of the fire. And it certainly means that you can't be there to pull somebody else out of the fire. 7 years ago, my family endured one of the worst tragedies that anybody will ever have to experience. And my family was absolutely devastated and destroyed by a single horrific act. We cried together, we held each other, we kept telling each other that we would get through this. But we all knew that none of us had the strength or the capacity to really be there in any kind of special way for each other, because we were all grieving, we were all suffering, we were all sad, and we were all hurting. When we came back from an extended time away, we came back to a faith family at the church I was serving at the time, who literally gathered around us in a circle, who prayed for us, and who reminded us that even though they were sad with us, even though they were sitting in suffering with us, even though they had empathy for us and sympathy for us, that they were separate from the suffering because they were different than we were. They weren't part of our family. They could be something that our family needed in that moment. They could be something that we needed in that moment. The church is a better community than we find anywhere else in our world. Political groups, social clubs, interest organizations, all of these attract like-interested people. But the church does something different. The church reminds us that at a fundamental level, what we do in church and what we do with the church and what we do as a church is not about us as individuals. It's about pointing beyond ourselves. It's about recognizing that we're part of something bigger, something global, something that we're called into, something that we're called into from something that we've been called out of. That's what the word church means. The word church means those who are called out. It is in Greek ecclesia, called out. And so the church can be a different kind of community for you and for me. It can be a place where we associate with people who vote differently than we do, without resorting to the cheap rhetoric of anger and resentment, where we can interact with people who live in a different social strata than we do, without resorting to feeling like we're less than. It's where we can sit and worship with people who've had a different past and who have a different future than we do. It's where we can interact with people in a real way that have an entirely different view of the world than we have ever imagined, and where we can be made better by that. Church is a place where the community can become something else, because it's not about the community itself. It's about what the community can point toward and what the community has been called out from. The Apostle Paul reminds the church that it is a place where there are no ethnic boundaries, where there are no Jews or Gentiles, where there is no gender boundaries, where there is no male or female, where there is no social boundaries, where there is no slave or free, because all are one in Christ Jesus. This is the only place in our world where this still happens, and possibly the only place in our world where this has ever happened. Now, the reality of group dynamics is that like is always going to attract like. Churches are always going to be places where predominantly people from one ethnic background worship. There are always going to be places where predominantly people in one part of the city worship. There are always going to be places where people who kind of like the same style worship. But these are local expressions of the church, and the church, as we saw last time, is about a bigger and a better story. It's about a worldwide movement of God, where the people who are called from redemption into restoration and hope find themselves part of something that God has been doing for 2,000 years, and God is doing in every country on earth, in every language that's spoken, and with people of every size, shape, and color. The reality, the beautiful, simple, poignant reality is that you are part of a community. Church invites you to be part of a better community. We all have a family, we all have friends, we all have some kind of a group where we find our sort of sense of value and purpose and worth. But church is the only place where that sense of value and purpose and worth doesn't come from inside, but it's something that we are called and invited to experience and to find fresh in a better community. For now, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. We hope that you will join us in this community as we continue to explore this together through our Afterwards program. If you go to our website, you can find a link to the Afterwards gathering near you and join us as we discuss some of these questions, some of these ideas, some of these thoughts, and find ourselves in a better community. So take care of yourselves. Cheers.